You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You're listening to Mission Log the Orville, an episode-by-episode discussion of the adventures of the crew of the USS Orville.
Welcome to another episode of Mission Log the Orville. This week, future unknown, much like our podcast. The one where Isaac tries to expand his coil deployments and a familiar face returns from Sargas 4. We'll discuss the meanings, morals, and messages to see if this episode aligns with the Star Trek Roddenberry philosophy. I'm Jessica Lynn Verdi.
Pretty good. How are you? And I'm Mike Richards. Mission Log the Orville is a conversation that depends on your participation. Share your thoughts, ideas, and tell us what we missed at ML_the Orville on Twitter, Mission Log Pod on Facebook. You can email us at missionlog-theorville@roddenberry.com. And if you're watching this on the Roddenberry YouTube channel, please hit like and subscribe. And remember, we may use your comments on an upcoming episode. Before we jump in or talk about comments, we want to talk a little bit about what the plan is going forward with the show following our coverage of the season 3 finale.
Yeah, I think it's been so awesome to find a bunch more people that are listening to our show and enjoying the Orville with us. It was really awesome, getting up to this point, doing season 1 and season 2 with you. And then season 3, we found a whole bunch of people that really love the Orville. So I think we have so much more room to grow, especially since Disney Plus is going to be happening soon. And it seems like a lot of people are clamoring for more Orville. So it's possible we might be able to supplement that literally. In the interim, we don't want to just, churn out episodes just to churn them out. But we have some ideas moving forward to keep us busy, to unpack some of the major themes, maybe have some more guests on the show. We also want ideas from you, the listener, as to what you might want from us. We had a really great day watching this season finale, excuse me.
That was so much fun, and that was all you for putting that together on Wednesday.
No, it was all of us. Everyone's your energy was there the entire time. We, joined Patreon members and chatted before the show, after the show. I did my stream checking out the Orville interactive fan experience, which is so cool. We didn't even get to see all that ship can do in the game because I couldn't run it at its highest quality. So I had to make sure I can run the stream and the game. But man, it was super fun. They do an excellent job. It looked like a ton
of fun, and your entertainment value is priceless. So we did the normal YouTube premiere in the live chat, and then we bounced straight over to Discord, chatted there. Tom Costantino joined us as a special guest there, which was amazing. And then we did Jessica set up a watch party for us following her live stream on Twitch at Jessica Nerdy, where she played the Orville interactive fan experience, which, by the way, had the creators of the game in the live chat for that as well, which was amazing. Then we jumped over to the live chat with our Patreon members, and during the watch party, during the premiere, which was at 11 o'clock my time Central, and you guys were, lounging out about 9 o'clock on the West Coast.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate considering I was tired, especially after streaming and doing, but I knew I didn't have 11 p.m., 12 a.m., you know what I mean? I knew I had the benefit of time on my side.
And then we had a Zoom call following that where Tom Costantino joined us again, gave us some more behind the scenes and some more just awesome insight into the show and, kind of where it was, where it's been, where it's, possibly going.
He was celebrating it like we were celebrating it. An amazing day.
Yeah. It was like the ultimate rap party for this season.
For the fans. It was a good time.
Yeah. Now, without specifics, we've talked before about having some guests on, some new faces, as well as some familiar faces. Everybody that we've had on previously as a supplemental guest has offered to come back. We've had offers from other folks involved in the production to be on our show as well. So those are all possible future supplemental episodes.
So it's not too unknown for us.
No. It's just the right amount of unknown.
Got it. And I do think doing at least even a short version of our normal show on the novella Sympathy for the Devil is probably in order as well.
Yeah, we'll be careful because we want to make it sort of a spoiler-free zone, or at least warn people heavily about.
Don't listen to this.
Yeah, don't listen to this until you've
read it.
Read it or listened to the audio book, which is what I did.
Yeah, and we'll toe that line, obviously. But I think you're exactly right. It's not the same as you could watch this on TV, press pause, read this at your own caution, or read this at your own whatever. What's the word I'm looking for?
Without further ado, here's Jessica with the recap.
When two people love each other very much and get naked in the wood, one runs for their life to escape their lover while the other gives chase. If the lover is caught, they consummate their love in front of family and friends. At least that's what Topa is learning of the Mocklin tradition. Let's hope she doesn't have to learn how her fathers consummate, though. Bortus and Clyden, renewing their vows, plants a seed in Isaac's brain that leads him to get down on one knee in the middle of the mess hall and propose marriage to Dr. Finn. She is shocked and flattered and confused. Even though Isaac would prefer Claire to not die if it can be avoided, it can't be. But Isaac tells Claire that it is his intention to look after her entire lineage, Ty, Marcus, their offspring, and so forth. Okay, that's pretty romantic. The girl crew gathers around some alcohol and talks the pros and cons of Dr. Finn saying yes to Isaac. Ed walks in and tries to escape, but is unable. Reluctantly, he offers some pretty sound advice, actually. Ask Ty and Marcus how they feel about it. Meanwhile, on a trip to Sargus 4, you remember the upvote, downvote place that almost killed John Lamar, the ship is being hailed. But how? The planet is still in their version of the 21st century. It would seem that Lysella snaked a comm way back in season 1 and has been trying to contact the Orville ever since. Ed and Kelly bring her aboard and hear her plea. They're monsters, horrible, thoughtless people who have no mind of their own, and she wants asylum. Cautiously, it is granted, and Kelly is elected to take Lysella under her wing. In the engineer room, the crew is all yuck-em-ups about Lamar and Sargus 4 when Isaac comes in for a work update. Everyone asks Isaac about the big day. Isaac assures them that there has yet to be confirmation on Dr. Finn's part, and John Lamar offers some unsought advice to Isaac as a disapproving Jenny Turco looks on, telling him to sample the goods before he commits to the same good forever. Claire sits Ty and Marcus down to float the idea of marriage to Isaac past them. After some careful words, the boys plainly tell her that it's a green light for them. Looks like the boys are getting a daddy. Unfortunately, despite the answer being a yes, Isaac decides to try out Lamar's advice and asks Kelly if she'd be interested in becoming intimate. She shuts him down and tells him to keep it between them. A couple of drinks in the mess hall finds Lysella still trying to sort out how the Union and this world works, asking the important questions. If you don't have to work, why work? She tries to wrap her head around the whole idea of reputation being currency. But when it comes to entertainment, there may be some things Lysella recognizes. But there's one thing that won't quite compare. In the sick bay, just as Kelly gears out to tell Claire what happened, Claire asks her to be her maid of honor. After a brief moment of celebration, Kelly reveals what transpired with Isaac. Smash cut to Finn chewing out John Lamar like a piece of toast. On the bridge, Isaac asks Gordon to be the best man because he's most likely to perform the best man speech, but Bortus quickly usurps him, claiming to be regarded as very funny on Mockless. Isaac agrees, and Gordon is livid. Oh, and by the way, Isaac invites Kalon Primary and all of the Kalon to the wedding, and they're on the way. Kelly demonstrates the wonders of the environmental simulator to Lysella and introduces her to a beautiful asteroid community that, okay, listen, it's all too much for Lysella, so I'm just going to spare you too. Essentially, Lysella starts to understand that these advancements could help her people and doesn't quite understand why the Union doesn't help those in need. Not to mention, she's beginning to feel pretty guilty that she just left them in the lurch. Gordon bitches more to John and Ed, who try to talk him down by stroking his ego. Gordon is so mad that, wait, is that an egg salad sandwich? It would seem that Gordon was just hangry and that a 3-month-old Sando is all he needed. After two very different bachelor and bachelorette parties that must be seen to be believed, everyone sobers up when Lysella tells Kelly that she has to go home. While it's complicated, they decide to let her go home. Yes, she has seen all these things and knows about the simulator, etc., but it's not like she can make one or that the people will even believe her. But there's the rub. When they pack her up to go home on the shuttle, alarms blare and Tala searches her bag. A communicator is full of information on how to make everything, and that means Kelly has to better explain why they just can't give her people this technology. She shows a thriving planet very similar to hers and Earth's and explains that early members of the Union wanted to help, gave this planet technology, and within 5 years, they wiped themselves out of existence. However good Lysella's intentions are, forcing something to happen doesn't make it so. Speaking of wiping out existence, 4,000 Kalon ships are on an intercept course and approaching the Orville. Isaac informs Ed and Kelly that these are his wedding guests. Yet again, a misguided attempt of human tradition has gone awry. The ship can't hold that many Kalon. Thankfully, they can broadcast the ceremony to everyone. The ceremony is a beautiful one, with vows shared in perfect keeping with the other's personality, and a proud contingent of crew and Kalon look on. Lysella is at the party and has decided to stay, and they drop her in by introducing her to the entirety of the Kalon that is present. That should be fun. A surprise for everyone at the party and the audience. Halston Sage, Alara, arrives just in time for Bortus to completely tank his best man speech. All kidding aside, Isaac requests Gordon to take over, and not a moment too soon. A rehearsed speech delivered in an unrehearsed way is exactly the tonal shift we all needed and gets the job done. It would appear his duties are further required, and Claire asks him to sing a song. Set to the tune of James Taylor's The Secret of Life, we get lingering shots on every beloved crew member, family, and friend. Everyone is moved, including Kelly, who grabs Ed's hand. And just like them, we all head into a future which is unknown. The end.
That was your recaps are so entertaining. like I would honestly I would listen to the show just for your recaps. I would listen to every other episode just for your recaps.
That's very sweet.
But that was so good. As you know, we watched this show last. It premiered Wednesday night, which was August 3rd. Technically premiered August 4th at midnight Eastern United States Eastern Time. Written by Seth MacFarlane and directed also by Seth MacFarlane. We had 12 episodes of season 1, 14 season 2, 10 in season 3, so 36 altogether. Mm-hmm. How many of those do you think Seth wrote?
Whoa. If you'd asked me about only season 1 and 2, I would say about 5 or 6. I think now we're probably up to 10.
16.
Wow.
So just under half written by Seth MacFarlane. Again, I'm sure they bounce things around. They have a writing room. They have staff.
Yeah, but he clearly likes writing, though.
Yeah. Like he said, he told us that he is a writer who acts.
Sure.
Compared himself to Tina Fey in that way, as a writer who acts. Definitely does. What about directing?
20.
Okay, 7. So I was really surprised at that. None in season 1.
I'm not surprised by that too, because he definitely gives credit where credit is due, and
right.
He knows that he can direct, but he loves watching someone like John Cassar direct or something like that.
So it was none in season 1, 3 in season 2.
None in season 1? He didn't direct the first episode?
No, Jon Favreau.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Very smart of Jon Favreau. He's getting that paycheck every single time. He is,
man. He's getting that consultant fee, too, whatever that is. He gets a consultant credit every episode. And then 4, between 4 and however many they want to co-credit between the two of them. But technically, what I looked up today was 6 were credited to John Cassar and 4 to Seth MacFarlane in the Orville New Horizons. So definitely not somebody who... likes to micromanage or, put all of the spotlight on themselves, as we've seen both in front of the camera and maybe behind it. And something going back to what he said when we asked about his leadership style, he actually said this on another show as well. Look, it's the FDR model versus the Hitler method. One of these people trusted his team and delegated and got the best work from everyone. And the other one micromanaged and eventually killed themselves in a bunker. So which one do you want to be? That was in Variety magazine a couple of years ago. So, and we just looked at this the other day. It goes on to say McFarlane's strategy is to put someone in charge of a show. And if that person is truly in charge, to not force any creative decisions on them from afar. That's how he feels he'll get the best work out of his team, as well as achieve everything without putting himself into an early grave.
Sure.
Now, that kind of reminds me of something that you and Alex, who you two are just too cute together, I can't stand it, talked about yesterday on your Twitch channel where you did the news. And it had to do with HBO Max. And they, in the story that you were reading, doing your Friday morning news broadcast, there was a line in that story that said, HBO Max, I think, encourages the producers to fight with the creatives to get.
I loved how you balked at that.
Best, and I was like, fight with, not work with.
That is poor publicity to begin with, and second of all, it perked my ears up too. I don't know if you realized how tired I was while we were doing that. I was exhausted, but that's scary, and then that doesn't make for better content, which it already seems like they're tanking some of the generous lead that they have in being the second most successful platform currently. Yeah,
so I know, and then I go back to, Rick Berman, rode herd on Star Trek from, took the torch of Gene Roddenberry, during Next Gen and when Gene Roddenberry passed away in 1991, and continued that through the rest of the run of Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. And, it was, hats off to him. I mean, that was an incredibly successful run for Star Trek. But there was he is sort of known for exercising some tight control over the creatives. Now, look who we have on the show. We have David A. Goodman, Enterprise alum, Brandon Braga, Enterprise alum, Andre Bormanis, also an Enterprise alum, and some guy named Seth MacFarlane, who played a guest role in a couple of appearances. We'll get to it. It's a footnote. But all those folks that were, trying to do maybe a show like this, while under some studio constraint and some creative constraint, maybe now can do the show that they wanted to do. And I would like to take credit for that thought. I would like to also give credit for that thought, but the person that I talked to about this prefers to remain anonymous.
Correct.
So I will.
Got it.
I will not divulge. But I feel like fighting with your creative people does not get the best creative result.
It's hard when you're trying to, I think when you're trying to please and be financially successful, as opposed to making the show that you want. You might be successful for a couple seasons. You might be successful for a few seasons, but I also think this is true in the business. Some people, some absolute rat people, can have long-lasting careers. Unfortunately, like Harvey Weinstein was literally protected by his lawyers. People just saw that cash cow and knew what he was doing and let him be a horrible, horrendous person. He ended up having a reckoning, not a moment too soon, way too late. But you could have that extreme side of the spectrum. But I do believe you will see more success, longevity, and creative fulfillment the kinder and more open-hearted you are. I do believe that. At least that's the kind of Hollywood I want to work in, right? I think you can find both. But it's also such a big world that you can leave a situation if it's not creative fulfilling or emotionally fulfilling or what have you. This is not to disparage anything that's out there, because there's a lot of people that are working really hard under the constraints that they've been given. And that's not their problem. And I'm sure there's constraints on the Orville as well, because it's not like, hey, everybody, what do you think? I'm sure. But at the end of the day, the main goal is to make something that they're going to enjoy and the fans are going to enjoy genuinely. And I think we end up with an amazing season 3 like that for that reason.
And I can say with no doubt that if you are in a position where you're not fulfilling yourself creatively, that yes, you can leave that role and find another one. Speaking of creativity, how about the music in this episode? It's
Very
like just
good.
sort of like, hey, how about the music? But Joel McNeely, who is like I said, one of 3 or 4 people that does the music on this show. It's a phenomenal score in this episode. But the opening cold open of the show with Bachelor in Paradise, and Isaac wandering around, just kind of.
Oh, that was cute.
That was super cute. Looked into the song. It's from a 1961 romantic comedy of the same name.
It was very upsetting, the content of that song, by the way.
Yeah, it sure was. But Bachelor in Paradise, 1961 romantic comedy starring Bob Hope and Lana Turner.
Makes a lot of sense.
This was not just some B movie that nobody heard of. The film won 3 Laurel Awards for Best Comedy Actor for Bob Hope, and Song. You know what song won a Laurel that year? Bachelor in Paradise, with the music by Henry Mancini, lyrics by Mac David. And that song was also nominated for an Academy Award. If you're like, hey, dude, Laurel Awards are great and all, but I've never heard of one. If you're like that, also
I
nominated.
kind of was being like that.
Yeah, I was kind of like that too. Also nominated for an Academy Award. So cool song, cool tune. Definitely fit into that. I just kind of like that vibe of early 60s, kind of like the Vic Fontaine lounge on Deep Space Nine.
It definitely set us up for what ended up being a very lighthearted episode after a very heavy season.
Which we need. I think it was 2 episodes or so where I was like, I just want a lighthearted episode.
Yeah.
Because I am exhausted.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Can you imagine how they feel?
Emotionally drained. Oh, 100%. We had Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley. Think. by Bordas.
Did we?
Did
we actually?
Yeah, and that little country slang on it too, or whatever country accents are called. Twang. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Think by Aretha Franklin. That's when the girls were dancing in Young Kelly's favorite nightclub. And finally, you already mentioned The Secret of Life by James Taylor. Yeah, more on James Taylor later, I think. Guest cast? I'm just going to say too many to list, man. So just about everybody you ever saw in the Orville at any time is here, is back, is there. Obviously, one of the things I loved, the return of Halston Sage, who was not credited at the beginning of the show, but she was credited as a special guest star at the end of the show during the beginning of the closing credits. That avoided spoiling her appearance during the episode, unlike there was an episode of season 1 of Star Trek Picard where the big reveal, like 2/3 of the way into the episode, was that Jerry Ryan is back as 7 of 9. It was dramatic music and her look and just the total badassery that is Jerry Ryan. Unfortunately, during the open credits, it said Jerry effing Ryan. And I was just like, okay, that's a creative choice I wouldn't have made.
I don't even know if it's a creative choice. I would question whether that's her contract.
And that's what I was thinking. That might have been a contractual thing.
Still, not great.
Yeah.
It's like when you see like the trailers in a movie. I know people who specifically don't watch trailers for movies because it gives away the majority of what you're going to be watching. Even
well,
if you
it
don't
generally
get the whole
gives
story.
away what world you'll be living in.
Yes.
In a world
where people watch movies for joy.
I think we're finally done with that period of
I don't
trailer
think
making.
We are a little bit, but a little bit not. I mean, in a world, I feel like even if it's as a joke, we still colloquial like to know that. But I think you're right. They definitely, even if it's like, hey, here's $10,000 more to do this episode, we're going to put your credit at the end of the episode. That it's definitely from a storytelling standpoint, the more genius way to go about it, or more
it really is
smart way to go about it.
And like you said, the contractual thing, because I know people have, to have like
Writers
and
and stuff.
before their name and, other contractual issues. But yeah, just, if you don't want to spoil the episode for everybody who's watching it, maybe think about other ways to handle that.
What if when Jerry Ryan came out, it said, and Jerry Ryan? They waited until she got there, and then they revealed her, and then that's the
Jerry Ryan.
third. And oh my God! Introducing Jerry Ryan.
That'll be in the director's cut, or maybe maybe the how it should have ended cut. And we have Georgia Wiggum as Lysella, our favorite barista from Majority Rule, the season 1 episode with the upvotes and the downvotes. She also appeared in Legacies, Jade, What We Found, Into the Dark, Saving Zoe, Scream, the TV series, where she was in 6 episodes. She was in 11 episodes of The Punisher, also appeared in Dirty John, appeared as Pepper Atkinson on 3 episodes of Chance, and like Ann Winters, appeared in 13 Reasons Why. Her upcoming project, she'll be playing the role of Blair on Seth MacFarlane's series Ted. Again, that name, Seth MacFarlane, on his series. Yeah, on his series Ted, which is set to premiere on Peacock. Which is apparently a streaming service in 2023. So in the future, Peacock, we got it because my daughter was interested in the reboot of Saved by the Bell, which we watched 1 episode, but I do watch it because it is associated with NBC Universal, so it has some things on there from the Sci-Fi Channel, such as Resident Alien, which I love.
Oh, that seems like it's right up my alley. I always forget that exists, but it looks pretty good.
Super fun show, coming back for I think the second half of season 2 this summer. We mentioned a while ago before we move on, David A. Goodman, and I remember mentioning him for some reason as a supplemental guest earlier. Have you seen Honor Society?
I've seen half of it, and
oh my God, it is so good.
Far loving it.
Yeah.
It's more up my alley than I thought it would be, even. But Gaten is great. She's great in it. I'm really enjoying it. But don't spoil it for me.
I won't spoil it for anybody. But written by David A. Goodman, premiered on Paramount Plus, which I know all of you have. And we will. All I'm going to say is phenomenal writing. If you haven't seen it yet, please check out Honor Society on Paramount Plus. So the ceremony. Is this just like extreme playing hard to get, or are we just having fun with sexual assault and chasing somebody down and tackling them and having your way?
There's still
so to speak
in the participation of the ceremony to begin with. I can see what you're saying, but Clyden literally hits him with a rock. So,
if I was serious about this, it would be in the second part of the show, and it's not.
100%. I just didn't think of it that way. And believe me, it's a super questionable thing. It is a very funny way to open up the episode. I am a little sad that we have to let go of the Bortus and Kelly ship, but I think Bortus is happy. And Clyden being a super champion for Bortus throughout the episode, when Bortus was just falling flat on his face during performances, which, by the way, were very funny, but for us only. Yay, hooray. I think they ran away with this episode yet again. There's so much, there's so much to love. And Penny Gerald Johnson, is it Gerald Johnson or
Johnson Gerald?
Penny Johnson Gerald just absolutely tearing into John Lamar's ass is absolutely one of the best things this show. His punk ass.
With a side of grapefruit juice.
Is probably one of the best things she will ever do and we've ever seen on this show. But Clyden, the enthusiastic Chad Coleman brings is so good. And the deadpan Peter Macon, it's so good. It's just so good. It
was, but I think if I was judging that ceremony, and I saw Clyden give himself up by peeking out from behind that tree, I think he was giving himself up at that point.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so I call shenanigans. It was not it was that chase was not one fair and square.
Not a sanctimonious consummation.
No, I think it might cause, well, hopefully it doesn't cause problems down the road.
I can't imagine it won't.
Right.
100% though, I thought the same thing. I was like, Clayton, he would have...
Why did you... You were behind the thing. Don't.
You're fine. Yeah, no, it was bad. It was bad. He definitely, wanted to act like he didn't want it. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions that have been raised.
So, something else that we could talk about later, but we won't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is it okay to discuss who's your most needy patient, like in the mess hall with a non-doctor colleague? Or...
It's 100% freaking HIPAA. I don't understand how that's the conversation leading in. Like, I understand we have, like, listen, even in improv,
like writer says, insert small talk here.
Unbelievable. It's so out of character. It may be when they're drinking, but in the middle of the mess hall, because it got me thinking in improv, you'll do this thing where like you want to start off a new scene. Because again, we would do narrative improv. We'll do like full plays. We would do a whole episode of the Orville if we were improvising Orville. So you might open up a scene and go, and then I says to the guy, I says to him, that's not my horse. And then that's like a cue for everyone to laugh. So like, you gotta come up with something to just get the scene started. But that's not it. That's not it. It's not. No, it wasn't right.
Yeah, and maybe that's where privacy is going 400 years in the future.
We don't have any privacy. Privacy is a novel idea that existed for a blip of 70 years in our culture and has gone away. Anyway, it bothered me, but it was a funny bother.
Yeah, it really was. So skipping kind of ahead to when the ladies got together over their wine and they were trying to talk, convince or decide whether Claire was going to marry Isaac or not, and they were going to do pros and cons. And it was, well, he loves you and he will look after your offspring, and he doesn't have emotions, which could have been a pro or a con. I was just thinking, like, do these people know how to play pros and cons? Like there's supposed to be some cons on the list too.
To be fair, they're drunk.
That's true. That's a good point.
It's not. They did not go about this well. They were just being tipsy. I think it was just cute to see the moment of them bonding, and then watching Ed realize the grand mistake he made by just walking in. By just
walking in, sober man.
He was full sober man. Go. But also giving the only sound advice in the room. Like, again, they pros and cons. They're like, wait, what were we doing?
Kelly's like, holy cow, I want to marry him too.
Yeah, very
good. It was so good. And I loved just how awkward Ed was in like all of the marriage proceedings all the way through, whether it was that scene or the bride's picking out the bridal gown. It was like, no, I said I liked that. I said I loved it. You look great. I said it just like the other person said it, the same way. I mean, all I could really hear was Brian from Family Guy through a lot of that, because it was that same sort of awkwardness that you get from that, but very well played in a lighthearted scene.
Yeah.
And an episode that I think did have a pretty heavy message that clearly we'll get to later.
Nah.
Do you feel bad for John Lamore?
No. It was the stupidest thing anyone has ever done on the planet besides Kelly healing that little girl.
Yeah.
To dance against a statue. So if he hasn't danced,
beloved folk hero Mela Griffindon.
And if he hasn't danced since, that's the least of his concerns. Although, you know what? That being said, it does harken back to something he said, and this is on the more, serious side of this character, that he has to play dumb because people expected him to be. And that's a very common trait among minorities, is where they don't want to stand out too much. So he very well could have been acting dumb because he's expected to. So if he loves music for that reason, if we want to get into it philosophically like that, then that does suck. But he also shouldn't have danced on a statue in the middle of a planet that they shouldn't have stood out on.
I agree. Now, I also think that Hopefully he learned his lesson, but at some point with the right therapy and with the right counseling, maybe someday John Lamar can find the music again. But I'm glad he learned his lesson.
Here's the thing. More often than not, this entire ship needs therapy, and yet I don't think they're going. But also, it seems like Claire serves the purpose of both, which
she
also
does,
is not
yeah.
great.
Because she also talked about like specializing in counseling biological life forms, but couldn't help Isaac at one point. So evidently she does serve the role as counselor as well. But I'll sum it up with what John said, since we're talking about him. This is a weird-ass place they work.
This sure is. I soft pitch. I should come on as the therapist for season 4. Just a soft pitch.
Hey, we'll make that a hashtag.
No one would buy it. It is a weird-ass place for sure. I mean, but wouldn't you want a egg salad sandwich just to pop out of nowhere?
I tell you what, so Gordon was going, I'm glad you said hangry, because that actually made me laugh.
You said it. You said it when we were watching the show.
Yeah,
together.
yeah. So it's good that I can laugh at my own jokes, I guess. But
no, it was. Yeah, you were totally right.
It was like, yeah, poor Gordon is just going on and on and on about this. Now, I've been in situations where you kind of feel like you earn an opportunity by being funny and having a good track record of being a best man at Ed's wedding or whatever. And now you
were
feel
great.
like
you made everyone.
You made everybody. You're awesome. Yeah. And you feel like you've got this opportunity now. And then somebody comes in and kind of strong arms it out of you. What I thought was funny also was Gordon's comment where he's like, he just thinks he's this guy that just is so entertaining and just commands an audience. And I'm like, Gordon, buddy, you talking about Bortus or you talking about you? And I was just kind of laughing at that. But clearly he was angry. And I'll tell you what. That egg salad sandwich, to me, for some reason, looked so freaking good.
I don't understand you people. That's yellow on a sandwich.
It's I can't explain it. That is always kind of my go-to road trip gas station. Cut in half in the plastic. The plastic sandwich cut in half along the corners, and it kind of comes as a little triangle. Sure. I also read something the other day. No, it wasn't a meme, so I don't know that it really counts as reading.
No, it doesn't. Acquisition of knowledge is acquisition of knowledge, depending on where you get it. But
it said, I don't care how old you are, when you're shopping for food for a road trip, it should be like a 10-year-old who's given $100 and told to spend it however they want.
Every single time. Even Kristen Bell was talking about that when they were doing a show, like a quiz on Ellen's show, and like Kristen Bell had to try to get Dax to guess whatever she was. Had to, like, it was basically like password, and the thing we're allowed to eat only on road trips, and it was like Cheetos or something, like the crap. And when I was not a vegan, I would do beef jerky and Coca-Cola or a Slim Jim. And man, let me just tell you, Slim Jims were my bread and butter for a while. They were, I loved them. But you're totally right. That's the way you should go. I still go for some chips and
I go for the sweets, man. I go for any Hostess product or that kind of thing, man. Anything chocolate covered and filled is.
Sure.
I'll easily go down $100 on that. Sure. On that bill. Just sort of like in awe again of the visual effects of this show. I just wanted to point out that scene inside the asteroid was, man, that was, I thought the scene was beautiful. And I also thought that Georgia did a wonderful job as Lysella of selling the wonder and kind of her confusion. Like at first she said, "Where are we?" Like, I mean, as far as she knows, she was maybe transported somewhere,
Right. You don't totally.
You don't know. And she was like, "Oh, we're still on the simulator, but this is, this place that, and these beings are kind of like other beings you've never heard of." Come on, Kelly. But just a gorgeous scene inside the simulator there. And I think just like, much like you and I on this episode of Mission Log the Orville, we're sort of, I feel like we're savoring the episode. We're savoring this, right. this experience. And I feel like that was going on quite a bit in this episode, where scenes were just given a chance to breathe and time was taken. And we got to enjoy, just looking upon this this world and this cast and crew and this family that's developed over the last 5 years, really. 3 seasons, 5 years. But you brought it on very early. It's kind of the comparison between, this cast, or this structural dynamic of the crew and Friends. You're like they meet on the bridge, and the Friends they meet in Central Park.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, and so I couldn't help but think of Joey and Ross and the Best Man saga when Chandler was marrying Monica, and
it definitely had that vibe for sure. It definitely did. There's a lot to. I mean, I don't think Friends created this model, but definitely solidified 3 women, 3 men, and this show kind of reflects that a little bit.
I think it was Platypus Man.
What?
I'm just kidding. That was kind of Richard Jennings' United Paramount Network kind of take on Seinfeld. So Platypus Man. Yeah, look it up sometime.
I guess that's what we're going to do with our series after we have nothing.
We're not doing Mission Log Platypus Man.
Are you sure?
100%.
But I think that a lot of shows from that point on carry on that 6-person dynamic at the very least, so you can have all sorts of couplings, and we even saw them try it out with Tala and John, and now Isaac and Claire, and I think Gordon said this so well, that we're such a family that when 2 of us fall for each other, we're all feeling it for good and for bad. I've caused it in bad ways. I've caused it in good ways. Right. But it is that's an action that reverberates, and it can be a beautiful thing. And anyway, I think Gordon summarized that pretty well. But I think you pointed this out, and it's important, and maybe we can look through this a little bit more in the second part of the show. But Lysella was us. And also like future audiences. Not only is it like, hey, look at all these things that we can do. There's so much more we can do too. And this really wasn't a twisty episode, which I just wanted a twist so bad because I wanted them to promise that they could come back. Oh, look! Right. You wrote the end ? At the end of the recap, and that reminded me of Flash Gordon, where someone picks up the ring. We'll never know who picks up the ring, and at the end ? A whole laugh. It wasn't as nefarious as all that. It wrapped up a lot and gave us rooms for newer horizons. Season 4,
it does. Season 4, really new horizons, or just maybe it'll be New Horizons season 2, since this was often just referred to as New Horizons, euphemistically as season 3. Right. I love how quickly Kalon Primary shifted from ominous villain to comic relief.
So quickly. And believably, are you being enslaved? We will be there. And I love how it's like immediately we will have every single one of us arrive. This makes logical sense. For as logical as these non-biologicals are, they are not very smart.
Yeah, especially with the Krill and Mocklin alliance still out there.
Right, which does give us season 4 context, by the way. We have potential with that. So.
We have that, and then we also have the Anaya, which means gently falling rain.
Right.
Which there was a piece of me that when they said her shuttle is here, I was like, oh my god.
I know.
I thought it might be Anaya. However, I was really, really happy to see Halston Sage.
I
specifically,
had a similar feeling.
Alara Katan. You brought this up last week, and eventually we got to move to the next part of the show.
We'll try.
But you brought this up last week where you felt bad about sort of not ever being okay with Charlie Burke. Even though she sacrificed herself. And I was like, I get it.
Right.
I felt like she redeemed herself, but I also know when I go back and rewatch the show, those first couple of episodes are going to be like, she's the worst.
Right.
I feel like Tala Kiali never won me over. And we got to see Alaric, and this is not a Jessica Zor comment. This is not a Halston Sage comment. This is just like from the characters themselves. We got to see Alara in Command Performance. We got to see her in Firestorm. We got to see her with her family. We got to see her with her awful dad, Ildis. I just don't feel like we ever got that kind of character development out of Talakiali. She was there. She did a great job. She was wonderful. She was, an active part of the crew. Her biggest episode may have been Deflectors, which arguably was written for Alara Katan.
Right.
So I just sort of would have liked to see, to kind of maybe grow more attached to her over time. I just don't feel like it ever happened. How are you, man?
I can't disagree with you. I think she got short-shrifted. I think she came at a deficit, and it wasn't easy to get us on board just because a lot of people have grown attached to Halston Sage. But I think you're right. In consideration of not having the greatest runway into the show, she still did really well, I think. But you're not wrong that we didn't get some of the emotional connection to her that we got out of Halston's character. And yes, you're right to say it's not a comparison of the two whatsoever, and it's not a dig against the actor at all either.
Not at all.
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's even a dig against the writers. They were at a deficit trying to get that character on board with us.
Yeah, I mean, Tala from Jump Street came across as competent, a part of the crew, well-intentioned. She added a lot, to the scenes she was in. And it was, so she was,
Left something
she did her
wanting.
job, but I just feel like having those, 2 or 3 heavy Alara Katan episodes that we had, that was just never really matched. Probably
Right.
the best story she got, arguably, was back to David A. Goodman in the comic books.
I can't say I've read them, so I should go after that.
Yeah, available on Amazon in ebook.
Let's do it. I think you're right that there's far too much to talk about, but we should jump into the other part of the show. This might be things that we can do on supplementals, is talk about things we didn't get a chance to talk about.
All kidding aside,
All kidding aside,
It is over.
Let's get into the serious part.
we will go now. So we've come to the part of the show where we explore the big ideas in the episode Future Unknown and discuss the meanings, morals, and messages to see if they align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. So I kind of jumped in. I made a note that Isaac said he will continue to monitor Claire's lineage. A lifetime commitment. And we've talked a little bit before about Isaac's emotions and lack thereof. I kind of feel like he does things that indicate to me that he has emotions, right? He was willing to completely wipe his memory and start his life over for Claire. And she said a lot of people would say that's love.
Right.
In this one, he said, I'm unable to feel love. However, I will continue to monitor your offspring, including all of their lineage. That's like I'll say a lifetime commitment. It's a many, 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 many times lifetime commitment.
Right.
That's the kind of thing you only do if you are dedicated. I know people that go into marriage that think, we'll probably get a few good years and then it'll be time to move on. Not Isaac. He's in it for the long haul.
He is indeed. I think I would, instead of saying yes, he loves her, because he did express that with emotion, but emotion is love, but it's also action. So he betrays his love for her in his actions. Right. If you look at it through that definition, right? But she even says, I think we should start accepting people for who they are instead of wanting them to be something that they aren't. And so I think that's a challenge to us as the audience too, to go, she's marrying somebody who doesn't reflect emotion in the same way that she does, and that's okay. And but he reflects the the esteem and care he has for her, it to the best of his circuitry.
Yes. Yeah, and I did that line stood out at me too. And you just said it because I didn't have it written down. You're with somebody for who they are, not who you wish they would be. Was that pretty much what it said?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great message.
And she knows that they shared something special in the simulator when he did have that brief moment of emotion. So that may be carrying her through. But also she loves him for not that. She loved him before when he didn't express emotion. So she knows who she's getting in with. And you're totally right. Like, I mean, first of all, the idea of someone, I thought we were going to get into the Millennium Man. What was that movie with, what God was it? It was a Robin Williams movie where. Right.
I never saw it. Is that the one with the kind of the picture of the robot on the movie poster and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah. And he elects to, spoilers, to become human so that he could die with the one family member that he falls in love with. It's kind of like it kind of reminds me of Peter Pan and, and Hook, how like, anyway, it's too into the weeds. But I'm glad they didn't go, well, I will terminate my existence so that it will die with you. But he's making the lifetime commitment in the same way that she's making a lifetime commitment. You're 100% right. 100% right about it. It's beautiful.
So I like that. And then, when Lysella, and we've come to the part of the show where I forget her name again, like we did in Majority Rule.
Fair enough.
Where Lysella has explains herself that she's basically looking for asylum,
right?
And said, well, that's kind of reserved for people that are undergoing political persecution, if they're somebody who's a dissident, or if there's an oppressive government. And, she went on to explain that, it's pretty oppressive. And the only time people can come together is essentially when there's a massive downvote going on. And one of the things that you talked about very eloquently earlier on in our series of podcasts was how much the internet will pile on to negative things, right, and kind of ignore positive things.
Right.
So I saw that as a similar mentality there, that internet mentality that they have there with their social media system of justice.
I think the thing that scares me the most about what she's explaining and how it's a reflection, right, of Earth 20 in the 21st century, aka us right now. I don't think the show's being pious at all. So for anyone that thinks that, like, oh, if only we'll get it, we do have to have a turning point. A turning point has to happen, and that's kind of what Kelly is trying to get across to Lysella, is that, yeah, I know you want to help, and I know you see a problem. I'm sure a lot of people know that there's a problem in our world too, but we are only going to take certain advances like nuclear fission and stuff and use it to command more power. We haven't had this social commonality happen where we are like, oh, actually, when all of us succeed, one of us succeeds, all of us can succeed, etc. I think it's just really hard, because how do you get to that point? And so do we burn Twitter down? Do we stop looking at the internet? Like how do we get to this point? We don't, where things the ship turns right,
So I've heard the philosophy that for the majority of human existence, the biggest problem we had was finding enough to eat. Whether it was hunting, gathering, settling into small communities, agrarian societies and things. But up until like really about, 100 years ago, 150, 200 years ago, getting enough to eat was the biggest problem we had. And where are our biggest problems right now? Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, things like that, from too much food, too much junk food, too much nasty food, too much road trip food, too many egg salad sandwiches. And we're kind of at that point right now, I think, with information. People sort of felt like if we all had more information, we would be better off. Things would be more verifiable. It would be harder to lie because the facts are right there, literally, at your fingertips to fact check. But right now, we're sort of the victim, much like we were a victim for about 100 years of too much food that we're starting to get a handle on now and understand, better ways to deal with that. We're victims right now, I think, of too much information, or dare I say, too much misinformation. Right. So I would hate to see that infrastructure get burned down, but I do think it needs to mature to the point that we kind of know how to handle it. Because I don't think our caveman brains know yet how to handle the amount of information that we get, especially as trusting as a lot of us are. And we just kind of read something on social media and assume that it's true because it looks like something that's in print.
We're trusting and we want to believe that someone's telling us. Like, the majority of us want to believe that when our friend tells us this story, it's accurate. And then you have sociopaths who want to lie to you and don't care because they're trying to achieve something. We were recommended the book by this Seth MacFarlane guy, The Denial of Death, by Ernest Becker. And he explains exactly what you just did, which we always thought that our discomfort with death and our meaning of life would be discovered with more knowledge, and that's not what's happened. Things have become more confusing. Our inability to accept the fact that we die and that we're stuck to these human bodies is not any less burdensome. And I don't have the answer, but I think you're right that, okay, we'll get the answer. We'll get it. More information. It's clearly not been the result. Some information has been good in order to understand how oppression is bad and how the history has been rewritten, etc. But you're right that I guess that, like, I would hate for critical mass having to come in the form of nuclear war, or more oppression until we get there.
Right. And that exercise where Kelly took Lacella to the environmental simulator to show her Gendel 3 was awesome. Really the very first mention of non-interference was in an episode of the original series, and that kind of evolved over time. And it was on
and we even questioned what the Orville or the Union's
right early on. We were like, do they even have this?
Right.
Because there was a chance that they could go in guns blazing to get John Lamar out during majority rule.
Right.
And we thought, well, do they have a non-interference thing or don't they? Well, it turns out they do. But in a private little war, Kirk was like, yeah, I was, a young ensign or lieutenant on this planet a number of years ago, and they're developing so nicely. I suggested that we don't interfere with them. Let them develop the way they want to. And then later on, fast forward to the Omega Glory, the one of the best episodes of the original series. And then they talk more about the Prime Directive and how a captain would give up his life as well as the life of everybody on his ship to protect the Prime Directive to keep from interfering. And we saw examples in Next Gen where Picard was willing to let a whole planet die in a natural disaster rather than save them because of the Prime Directive. Thank God Paul Sorvino was there to hide everybody in the holodeck, and including a young Penny Johnson and save all of them. She was in that episode. So it was but it's never been explained this well. And not just that, hey, we tried to be kind of like technological missionaries. There's a planet just like Earth. We thought if we gave you this stuff, you could leapfrog past your destructive phase. We thought we would do that, and it didn't work. Why? Because everybody was still hung up on personal gain and political dominance, and 9 billion people were dead. However, by my count, it was 8,999,990,999 because that one guy was still like,
Yikes. I think we're dealing with an undead person, though, so who knows?
Okay, so
that was pretty and here's the best part about that is Kelly knew it was coming. Like she must have programmed, like, just wait for it. Here we go. And I got it. And I won her over right
I got it.
now.
I got it right there. Right there. Wait, everybody. I have this timed just right.
1, 2, and there we go. It's kind of like how horribly my stream ended while checking out the Orville interactive fan experience when I decided to do the clown program. And I noped the heck out of there because that was bad. I can't handle those kind of jump scares. No, thank you.
It was a good one too. I expect that was a Brandon Braga, Andre Bormanis worthy jump scare. So
sure. No, thank you.
But you know, that message, and you know, at the end of the day, we talked about some big ideas and stuff, but the message, morals, and meanings that I looked at this was when Kelly said technology and societal ethics have to progress hand in hand, each one supporting the other incrementally. And that's that, because as your, I don't know, kind of life philosophy advances, so does your technology, and those things can
one can outpace
advance.
the other, but you can catch up.
And I think we were there, and I think we're probably there right now. But that was a lot of the big ideas with Twilight Zone and Star Trek: The Original Series, and you know, has our weaponry and our technology outpaced our ability to handle those things? I don't know that 50 years later things are better, worse, or the same. I think we haven't developed you know, at that point we developed weapons that could wipe out the world. So like from there, where do you go? You know, I mean, I guess there's just more of them now.
Right. There's more of them, definitely, and different threats, and different, but similar, but the same. Different, but the same. You know, I do choose, if possible, to look at it optimistically, which is hard to, but optimistically, realistically. The amount of knowledge that we have, the things we know about our culture and how we're going about it, it could be seen more as an awakening as opposed to the dark ages, because we are learning things. We are seeing the forest for the trees. And yes, there's 100,000 different people that disagree with us, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that it's going to be for good or for bad. It doesn't mean that those people will win or we will. But everyone is learning. I think that the challenge will be is how to, and we had a unique opportunity, and it's just the worst way to explain the pandemic, but a unique opportunity in COVID to have everyone have the same shared experience and kind of come together and go, the greater good matters here. And instead, we had horrible leadership that polarized us further, because that's a better way to gain power, is by keeping people ignorant and afraid. So
yeah, and not trying to get everybody on the same page, just trying to get 50% plus one, so that you get that quota.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Our government is such that you don't even have to have the popular vote. It doesn't matter.
Good point. So it's not even majority rule.
It's not.
Minority
it's all
rule.
Capitalism. It's all. That's why we have more monopolies than we ever had today, and that's why you have businesses that supported what was happening, because they benefited financially. And everyone's like, oh, all the layoffs, can't afford. Most businesses have reported 200% profit increase. We are in a world that just doesn't care about the workers, and it's being the mass is being ripped off. But the problem is the people that are, you know, believe that this country still gives a crap about them. They're fighting for the exact opposite of their interests, and it's unfortunate.
It definitely seems to be the case when I look at, you know, that dynamic. Also, it's people have beliefs, and then they're sold on a particular course of action that flies 180 degrees in the face of that. I did want to circle back a little bit, because I think you know, usually I kind of dig into the songs for messages, morals, and meanings. And we had that James Taylor song sung wonderfully by Scott Grimes. And beautifully. I just wanted to say this about that. That is the one and only time I think I've ever heard a James Taylor song where I didn't want to rip the guitar out of the person playing the song's hands and beat them with it. So I credit Scott Grimes for that. It was a wonderful performance and a great sort of capstone to the wedding scene. And
here's what I'm going to say. Instead of you explaining why now, join us directly after the premiere of this episode, and we'll talk about it at why on Hailing Frequencies. I think that could be fun to hear you say why you are willing to commit assault deadly weapon.
Yeah, it's a little bit Belushi style from Animal House, also a little bit Worf style from Cupid.
You will be silent.
The next gen episode. But here's the bottom line. Right? There's not going to be a white knight that rides in to save us, right? There's not going to be, that
You weren't just comparing me to Jingler and the reason you
that
don't
one
like
of
him.
No, I couldn't compare you to anything, Jessica.
Well, yeah.
You're incomparable. But we've got to solve our problems ourselves. If we're going to survive as a species, we have to do it on our own by taking shared responsibility for our planet, our relationships, and for our future. We have to do that. Like Kelly said, step one, don't sweat the small stuff. Learn to achieve collective goals, and then you can work for the common good. And I think as much fun as this episode was, and as beautiful as it was to watch, and how great the music was, and how I was watching this from a hotel, right, when we were doing our watch party, and I had some headphones on, I was laughing so loud at some point, I was convinced security was going to start banging on my door. That's how much I loved this episode. It was a Stripper Isaac, which I don't think we even talked about, was hilarious. So good. I love this episode so much, and I love that in this sort of fun, heartwarming celebration of the Orville New Horizons that we got to weave such an important message into it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm not even going to try and say anything more because that was so beautifully put, but I will share your sentiments that it was a wonderful episode that was thoroughly enjoyable from the beginning to end. Mission Log, the Orville is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, technical production by the incomparable Earl Green. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is podcast.roddenberry.com.
If you'd like to be a part of the conversation on the Mission Log Discord, become a Mission Log patron at patreon.com/missionlog. And join us Wednesday evening live on Mission Log Discord right after this episode premieres on the Roddenberry YouTube channel. So right now, like Jessica said, if you're watching on the premiere, come on over to Discord and discuss Future Unknown.
Until our next episode of Mission Log, the Orville, we'll see you in the stars. This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.